Welcome to week 2 of a 4-week shoulder strengthening series for baseball players. This week our goal is to progress some of the exercises and movements from last week and to start to think a little bit more specifically about the throwing motion and training some of those muscles and movements in the specific patterns that will be required in the throwing motion. You'll notice that some of the exercises this week will also start to challenge your trunk and core stabilizers as well. Again, the goal is to try and get these in 3 to 4 times over the next week. Try and give your body some time to adapt as many times as possible. As always, we're always available to answer any questions. Please send us a message if you have any. This exercise is going to be a progression off of the prone external rotation from last week. Last week, Austin, if you mind just showing, we had your elbows out to the side like this, and you're just rotating up and down like so. Today, what we're going to add is as you come up, so find that end range position. Again, the throwing arm should go a little bit higher than the opposite side. Then from here, what you're going to do is you're going to reach out into a Y, and then back down in the same step. So here, good, elbow stays still as you rotate down and up. The elbow should stay still. You'll notice that Austin's doing a good job of, as he reaches out, he's staying on the same plane. And what that means is that it should help kind of strengthen some of the muscles in the back of his shoulder blade, in the back of his shoulder too. So Austin, can you show what it would look like if you weren't staying in the same plane, if you kind of dip down forward like that? So you want to make sure you are getting all the way up overhead and still being able to engage across the shoulder blade. And then just like last week, as you're rotating, you want to keep the elbow kind of in front of your body here, so kind of down towards in front of the chest instead of up behind, like so. So keep it there as you're rotating. Try not to reach behind you as you lift overhead as well. So this exercise is a wall slide. All you'll need for it is a wall with enough space for you to go up overhead with your hands. What you're going to start with is your elbows on the wall. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep your elbows kind of inside as you go up the wall like this. So don't let your elbows kind of stick out to the side as you're going up. You want to think that you're pushing your elbows into the wall as you go up, and what that's going to help with is that's going to help get your shoulder blades a little bit more mobility, so that as Austin's going up the wall here, his shoulder blade should be coming around into his armpit. One way that you can think about that is if you have a string attached on the outside of your elbow here, and then as he's going up, it's pulling on the shoulder blade. The string pulls up and around as you go up the wall. What he's also doing is that as he is, you might not be able to see his feet, they're staggered with his left foot in front, and then as he's going up the wall, he's shifting his weight onto that front leg, including the hip. If you don't get the hip to move, you'll end up in kind of a position where your butt's sticking back behind you, and your back is starting to arch, like this here. So it's important that you're transferring your weight. You should be almost laying on top of the wall as you finish. And this is a hard thing to think about, but we're trying to work on getting the shoulder blade to move around the rib cage. You want to think about that you're pushing it from underneath, not pulling it from on top. So if you looked at it, or if you felt your muscle on top of your neck, top of your shoulder, as you are going up the wall, it should actually stay fairly relaxed. How you're going to keep that relaxed is by pushing into the wall, and then think about like you're trying to actually keep your rib cage down to not let it stick out in the air at the same time. This is a good exercise for trying to regain overhead motion. One of the things that's found in pitchers or throwers who get hurt is actually a loss of overhead motion. It's one of the biggest predictors of injury. Think about the wall slide as kind of a base model for a lot of different exercises. You can use bands, foam rollers, a lot of other ways that you can add some resistance or to make it more challenging. But if you can't get the shoulder blade to move, I don't think that it's too beneficial. So you got to focus first on the basics. If you have any questions about how to make it harder, you can always send us a message. This is an exercise that we call body under arm rotation in the clinic. What this exercise is a really good thing for is training a scap load when you're loading your throwing motion, kind of getting into that cocked back motion, you're about to start to spring forward here. And what you're going to do is you're going to put either a towel roll, a pillow, something that's fairly light on the back of your hand, in between the back of your hand and the wall. And what that's doing there is that's just as you're moving, that your hand is not coming away from the wall. And it also gives you some space for the rest of your body during this exercise. So Austin has, again, his elbow a little bit higher than shoulder height here. He's showing it on his left side just because of the angle of the camera. And then what he's going to be doing is he's going to be actually taking small steps with his feet. He's going to be rotating around here, keeping his hand still on the ball to keep it from coming off. And as he's rotating, what he's going to feel is more kind of in between the shoulder blade on that left side engaging as his shoulder blade is moving around his rib cage. So he's going to go as far as he can that way without his shoulder kind of popping forward here, right? That's keeping the shoulder blade back as well. And then he's going to get to that end range and then kind of take the tension off a little bit and then go back into it. And why this is important when you're thinking about a scap load, as you're in your throwing motion, that cock back position, your body is going to start to rotate first. If your body starts to rotate and it doesn't have a connection into your arm, all of a sudden all the force is going to be transferred right either to the front of your shoulder or to your elbow. A lot of times when guys think about their scap load, what they think about is trying to pinch the shoulder blades together. What you should notice is that when you are doing this exercise, the elbow is still staying above the shoulder, keeping the elbow fairly straight as well. But as you're rotating away, you're not pinching your shoulder blades and it's still engaging. This is the type of activation across your shoulder blades that you want when you are thinking about a scap load. A lot of times if you start to think about pinching your shoulder blade, and here Austin, I'm going to have you pinch your shoulder blade together, you'll notice that kind of the elbow is going to pinch down and back, right? That's usually not a good thing for your throwing position. Alright, next exercise, we're going to be doing some rhythmic stabilization in kind of your arm slot throwing position. So what Austin has here in his hand is kind of a 2/3 filled water bottle. Now the size of the water bottle can vary here. We don't want to make this too heavy because what the goal is actually to get the water to slosh back and forth in the bottle as fast as possible. So think about, you're going to be holding your arm in kind of your arm slot, so your elbow is going to be a little bit higher than your shoulder. For some people that's way up here, right? Some people that's a little bit lower, but think about where you throw. You want to try and find that position. And then what Austin's going to be doing is he's going to be oscillating his hand back and forth like this here. I'm not sure if you can hear it on the video, but you should hear the water kind of moving back and forth. He's trying to make some small, quick changes of direction to get the water to move. This is an exercise you want to do for time. So think about setting a timer on the watch for about 30 seconds. You want to try and move as fast as you can. And then Austin, you want to turn in facing this right here so you can kind of see. And he's near his end range external rotation. He's not all the way there, but he's pretty darn close. And as you go here, you can see that the pointy spot of his elbow, again, stays pretty darn still as he's moving. You should feel this kind of across the top of the shoulder, back of the shoulder blade. This next exercise is going to be a progression from that downward dog from last week here. And what Austin is going to be demonstrating is a downward dog with an opposite toe tap. So you're going to be taking one hand off of the ground, reaching through your legs to touch your opposite toe. So now this has become more of a one-arm exercise than the one last week where you're using both hands to push back. You still want to think about the same concepts. You still want to be thinking about pushing down into the ground to push your body up and back into the downward dog. But now what we're adding as well is a little bit of thoracic rotation, and that's a rotation through your trunk here. So what Austin is doing is he's trying to keep his body kind of in line or in between his feet as he's rotating to touch his toe. Austin, show me or have me demonstrate. If you start to shift your weight, you see how he's kind of shifting his weight out to the side here, and he's not getting as much rotation in through his trunk as he's moving there. This one you should feel in your shoulders. You might feel it in your stomach a little bit too. And then you might get some hamstring stretching, which is always a good thing. All right, this next exercise is going to be a progression from the plank shoulder taps that we were doing in the last video or last week. This one, you're going to be doing a plank, but you're going to be walking side to side here. So again, the same thing with the plank is you want to make sure that you're not kind of sagging down between your shoulder blades, but you're actually lifting up between your shoulder blades towards the ceiling All right, so Austin's maintaining a little bit of a press here. Austin, can you show him it real fast if you were to sag down between your shoulder blades, right? Don't want to be there. When you're in that position, it should engage your core a little bit too, and that's what the difference with this exercise as you're going to be walking side to side is it's going to challenge your stomach as well as your shoulders. So I'll have Austin start to walk side to side. The opposite hand and opposite leg should be moving together. You'll kind of get the hang of that as you try it. And you're going to be doing a couple things. One is you're going to be trying to maintain this lift between your shoulder blades as you are moving side to side. And then the other thing you want to think about is you want to think about you're trying to balance a cup of water on your lower back. So if it's rocking too much side to side, it's going to knock the glass of water over. So here, Austin, you mind swinging around here so people can see. And it's really here is where you're trying to stay nice and still. Trying to limit that rocking motion as best you can. So think about this, you're getting bang for your buck here, shoulder strength, and some lumbar stability. Alright, this is called a suitcase carry. So it's very similar to the farmer's carry, but instead of having weight on both sides, you're going to have weight only on one side. And actually having a heavier weight on only one arm is harder than it is with both sides, because on both sides you have it to counterbalance yourself. Now here, Austin has a heavier weight just in his right arm, and what that's trying to do is that's trying to pull him down like this, so this is one mistake that people make, or he's going to try and shift away from it to get his center of mass equal over his feet. What you want to think about is just if you were standing there with your hands down by your side and somebody handed you a weight into one hand, you wouldn't move at all. Now that's going to require a little bit of more stomach control on one side than the other, and you want to also think about kind of keeping whatever side the weight is on extended. One of the things that we see a lot with throwers is that their dominant arm, it sits a little bit lower, and it's almost like the right side of their trunk and rib cage is a little bit collapsed, and getting that to open back up is important. So what you want to think about is while you're standing there, can you open that side up and then keep it open as you have the weight in. So what I'll have you do, Austin, is I'll have you walk back and forth a couple times trying to maintain that posture. Think about doing it for 30 seconds. I don't think we need to go the whole time on the video here, but we want to make sure that you're getting both arms too. So you should feel that more on one side of your stomach, right, compared to the farmer's carry. Both good. Same thing on the left side. Try not to lean towards that other side quite as much.